in that film, there's a scene at the end where my dad turns to Duke and says, you have your crutch under the wrong arm. And Duke says, how would you know? Well, what happened is my dad, in all the interiors, he had the crutch under one arm, and all the exteriors, he had the crutch under the other arm.
So, boys, let me ask you about...
Boys, thank you.
Let me ask you about Big Jake, and I'm going to start with Chris because he's closest to this wonderful audience right here. You both play Duke's son in Big Jake. It's one of his best movies from the 70s. It's filled with action, and it's very intense, like a lot of the spaghetti westerns had been, and they're trying to capture a lot of that intensity. How were you cast as John Wayne's son in this?
Well, I was actually working on RIO LOBO. Duke went to L.A. to pick up his Oscar for True Grit, and we're shooting in Tucson. And he came back, and we're on the main street, and we had a big party going on for him to celebrate, and they had like a 5-foot Oscar in the middle of the street. And he walked over to him, and he said, when I was in L.A., I made a deal for my next picture. He said, I'd like you to play my son. Well, what am I going to say? Up yours?
Yeah,
So that's how I got it.
Patrick, how did you get cast as his son?
Yeah, it's one of the strangest things how that works
Nepotism.
out. Yeah, nepotism, one of the great stories. Yeah. That's it. Nepotism works out. It's so fun to have him because we are like an extended family. I have a great story with his dad, which is not related to Big Jake, but if I may share it.
Please.
Because I feel connected to this family. One night we were at a gala at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. And at the end of the evening, everybody leaves at the same time. There's 3 valets out there. You got to wait a long line to get your car. And we're walking out, and his dad says, let's go in the bar and have a cocktail and just have a little chit-chat. Wait list clears. His dad goes in, sits down at the piano, starts playing songs and singing songs. It was the best part of the evening. It was so great. And 40 minutes, we're in there, we have a cocktail with music. We come out, everybody's gone. I turn my ticket in, no car. And no car, and no car. What happened? My car came up and my dad saw it and he got in and drove away. But anyway, I had a wonderful night with this guy's dad, and we're a great family, and love this guy.
How did you two first meet? Do you remember back that far?
Well, I mean, it might have been on this film. But one wonderful thing that happens in those days, I don't know if they do it anymore, but we went out on a public appearance tour with this film. We went from
Let's not talk too much about that.
Well, no, we did like 21 cities in
19 days.
19 days, and you get to know each other. I mean, you working it down to the year. That's a lot of fun. Do a lot of interviews and stuff. So that's how we became tight. We did a movie for TV. It was supposed to be a pilot after that. A lot of fun, and it's just been a good ride.
Both your dads together in El Dorado, that was a lot of fun. And they had known each other for years before that, right?
Of course, yeah.
So that was kind of a remake of RIO BRAVO.
RIO BRAVO, RIO LOBO, and El Dorado were the same film.
Yeah. Howard Hawks.
Howard Hawks.
He falls in love with the picture, is enamored with the script, and...
He told me if you have 6 good scenes that people will talk about, you don't need to advertise it, and those 6 scenes are in all 3 pictures.
Yeah. If it ain't broken, don't fix it.
So you were in RIO LOBO too, with Duke and Jorge Rivero and stuff too? And that was Hawks' last Western.
Yes, it was.
What was he like?
Well, we nicknamed him the Silver Fox. He had gray hair, and at lunchtime he had a dirt bike. He would go dirt bike riding up in the hills. He was like 82 years old.
Pretty good set.
And every day after work, he basically forced me, well, maybe not forced, but to come to his hotel and have a gin fizz with him in the patio.
Oh, he forced you. Yeah, if I know you, yeah.
You didn't want to insult the director.
That's right.
Yeah.
I couldn't turn him down.
Well, speaking of motorcycles, and Big Jake, you are dynamic on that bike, and it's the turn of the century, so it's really unique for a Western to have that.
Yeah, well, it was, and actually they did have a 1914 Harley Davidson. They brought me down a week early to try it. But, I mean, the thing was a slug. It had one lung, and you put the gas on. There's no gears or anything. She goes boom, 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 boom.
That's the one lung.
Boom, boom. And no brakes, so when you wanted to stop, you had to say, okay, I'm going to stop at 50 yards. You shut off the gas and hope you stop there. And they had a 250 Spanish Montesa dirt bike mocked up to look exactly like the Harley. And we got on that, and it could stop and go and turn and do everything you needed to. We never used the Harley once. They're paying $100 a day for it, and they never used it once.
Probably why you're still alive today.
That was way before CGI, and so a lot of those stunts.
Oh, yeah.
Did you have a stuntman doubling you for that, or did you do most of it
No,
yourself?
I had just finished my first year racing motocross. Mm-hmm. And the two shots I did not do was jumping off the train station when I first meet Duke, and the other shot, I'm jumping from rock to rock. I was prepared to do them, but they said insurance wouldn't allow us.
No.
So those two shots I didn't do, but I did pretty much everything else.
Every crease, when he put on you
Clothes,
he looked
crease.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Looked pretty close.
It looked better than I did for me.
I told a story to our audience earlier, now that we're talking about the motorcycle. So when he pulls up in the motorcycle, it's banging, boom, 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 and my dad's sitting a horse, and he gets thrown off his horse because the motorcycle makes his horse skittish. And then later in the film, when we're riding in this town, we're on a chase trying to find the kidnappers. They throw this guy out of a bar, cross the street, come skidding onto my dad's horse. My dad's horse shied away 30 feet to the right, just skidded right away like this. My dad never moved in the saddle. Well, they couldn't leave it in the movie because then you wouldn't believe the gag in the front of the film, so they had to reshoot that scene. He was a pretty good horseman. He really was. Yeah, he was a good horseman.
Let me interject something here. I saw, because George and Duke would talk about the scenes coming up and how it's going to be directed. Well, George was like 5'2", and Duke was well over 6 foot. So I'd see these two standing off to the side talking, and George is like this.
That's right.
And Duke is like this.
And who won most of those discussions?
Duke always.
It wasn't the size, it was the willpower. It was the heart. And George was like so chill. I mean, he was great.
Well, your dad and a lot of people don't realize this, was a consummate filmmaker. He studied film. He was always observant of what Ford and the other directors he was working with up through the years. So when he took over directing, even though he was not credited, he knew what he was doing.
He knew what he wanted. He definitely knew what he wanted. He was very driven to succeed. He was very ambitious. And when you say he studied film, he studied his own performance so much. I mean, he really grew as a performer by watching his performance and remembering what he was trying to do and seeing where it failed and where it succeeded. There's scenes in The Big Trail. He's pretty raw talent there. But there were a couple of things that he did in that film that he used till the last day of his career. So he would do that. He fine-tuned his career. And you talk about his career, the last film, The Shoot, is probably his finest performance as an actor. Very vulnerable, very human being. At least he wasn't this cardboard cutout. He actually suffered, and it's a tough film for me to watch because of the ending. But he did a great job in that one.
But he and Don Siegel, because it was not a Bad Jack production, he didn't have the control over that movie that he did on some of his other ones. And he and Don Siegel, I understand, butted heads a few times over certain things.
They're going to butt heads, but they're both very driven people. And the one really amazing thing about Don Siegel, his roots were in editing. Mm-hmm. And so what he had at his resource was this whole history of films. Because what happens during the titles is coming up, you see this John Wayne is a young man growing up and becoming an anachronism in the turn of the century when, the cowboys gone away and the cars are coming in. And then there weren't many stars that you could do that with, to see this guy grow up on the screen. And Siegel did a fantastic job with that.
Like you said, he'd been an editor, and at Warner Brothers, he edited most of those montages that you would see.
He put the clock in high noon. I mean, that's what saved that movie. Keep cutting to that
Well, I
movie.
didn't realize he had done that, so that's interesting.
I don't know if he did it or not, but it makes a good story.
I didn't mean to put him on the spot, but it's so easy.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what I'm talking about, Esther.
Well, let's get back to Big Jake, because you were there and you'll know about that. Okay? Well,
Big Jake?
Big
You're
Jake.
I couldn't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. Come on.
No, Maureen O'Hara, the first film she did with Duke was Rio Bravo. And this, I think, was the last film she did with him.
Yeah, I think it was.
1971. What magic they had on screen. I know you were just a kid earlier in Rio Grande, but you got to see them grow in their roles through the years, and that magic on screen, that's so rare to see that.
Well, one thing that the relationship had going for it, Maureen was not a small woman. And she needs a big, strong person opposite her to bring out her femininity. And my dad was one of those guys. I mean, she ate so many men alive on the screen, but not my dad. You know, that worked out great. Some of the scenes of The Quiet Man, McClintock, and in the few scenes in Big Jake. So they played really, really well together. It really did, yeah.
Well, the premise in Big Jake is very interesting for a couple of reasons. One is that you've got this slaughter that takes place at the beginning at the McCandless household, and it's Richard Boone and his thugs coming in, which is Greg Palmer and Glenn Corbett, and it's violent. They kidnapped McCandless' grandson, which is really Ethan Wayne playing the grandson of your dad. What was that like? The whole thing seemed like a family get-together because there were so many people in the John Wayne stock company.
Well, first of all, we had to get rid of Bobby Vinton.
Yeah, I can't stand that guy. I mean,
Shoot him.
but that really set the tone for the film. When you have that kind of violence, that you have us going against the people, it really sets up the scene for a dramatic film. So they had to do that, and it worked, and it wasn't gratuitous by any stretch of the imagination. I say that because I'm part of the film, and I want to say it. But Bobby Vinton didn't last very long. Ethan, my little brother Ethan, turned out wonderful. At the time, we called him Heathen. He was just such a little troublemaker. But so yeah, that really set the tone for the film. Another interesting thing happened. I don't know if you were on the first couple of days we went out there, and Sherman was directing, and my dad hadn't come on the set the first couple of days. And, there was a certain attitude on the set. And like the third day when my dad showed up, everything just changed. Everybody was sharper on their toes, and things started to come together. Pretty fun.
He had worked with Richard Boone before in the Alamo. What was Richard Boone like?
A professional. I mean, he was prepared with the scenes, and I don't think I could have done it the same way he did, judging on what his breakfast was, but he was good. I mean, he was good in his scenes.
Maybe I shouldn't be telling the story out of school, but
School's over. Go ahead.
Dick was drinking a little bit on the film, and there's a scene near the end where Duke throws the key to the strong box down, and Dick bends down to pick it up. With the first 7 takes, he just rolled right over.
Kept on going.
And if you see the film, he comes up and he has this silly grin on his face. It's because I did it.
He got it. That's a big deal.
Another guy who popped up a lot in Duke's movies with you guys was Glenn Corbett. What a great face, and blue eyes and everything. He always looked great.
I got to kill him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
He said to me, "I understood you killed 3 men in a fair fight today." I said, "No, 4, counting you." What a cocky asshole I was.
And you might know, I was the only one in the film who didn't have a bullet in him.
That's true. That's true.
Well, you had that fancy gun too. Tell us about that.
Well,
gun.
he took that.
Yeah, I commandeered that.
Yeah, he
Being the older brother.
That's an
whatever.
1814 Mauser.
Yeah.
Was it an authentic?
Yeah, authentic 1914 Mauser.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was legit. Yeah.
Yeah. The kidnapping sequence where they take your brother climaxes at the end. You had some great stuntmen in this too. I think Dean Smith was part of the outlaw gang too.
But Dean Smith had the rifle in the bell
In the
tower.
bell tower.
that I shot.
And who shot him?
Yeah, I shot him. Yeah.
Okay, we don't want to give away the ending before the movie, but you know.
Yeah, that's true. We shouldn't be talking about too much of that stuff.
And then I think your dad gives Greg Palmer a pitchfork.
Again, you're giving us.
Who
There's a lot of-
who has not seen this movie here? Oh, like, well,
Well, there are at least 7.
10 people. 10 people.
What you're describing now.
I can't believe Bobby Carradine has never seen this movie.
He's never seen it in a big space.
Well, he's seen it 3 times. He just doesn't remember.
Oh, okay.
He's the Carradine through and through. So, well, I mean, you mentioned this thing with a pitchfork. Not many heroes, stars of movie, get away with using a pitchfork on another human being. I don't know how he got away. He got away with murder. The Searchers,
Literally.
literally murder, yeah. He was a bad, mean person in The Searchers, but he redeems his character in the end. That's the main thing. You redeem your character in the end. And
This film didn't have a lot of comedy in it, but he had done some very successful films like North to Alaska and McClintock, Donovan's Reef, that had comedy elements in it to show his comedy timing, which was so good. The comedy scenes in Big Jake were with you.
yeah, I mean, he always found a place in every movie I ever worked with him where he threw me on my butt. He loved to do that. And one of the opening scenes when I'm playing with him, I was calling him Daddy, but in a very sarcastic way, which he didn't appreciate, apparently. And so he yanks me off the horse, and they shot her about 3 or 4 times into the mud, off the horse into the mud. The director says, fine, we got it wrapped. My dad says, are you sure? We can do it 3 or 4 more times. What a guy.
Well, you played his son too, and he was a little antagonistic towards you a little bit in the movie too, wasn't he?
Which is why I hit him with a right cross in the hotel room.
Yeah, that worked out well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that paid him.
Well, it started out well.
Yeah, he couldn't phone call with you. You called him father. You know, you didn't call him daddy.
In the film, again, because George was getting the credit for directing it, and they discussed it, then did Duke let George give the direction to the people, or how was that worked out?
Yeah, I mean, directors do. I mean, they set the scene and you just block it and all that. That was George's responsibility. Occasionally you get a line reading from my dad, but mostly it was.
Well, yeah, but Duke stepped in numerous times.
Yeah.
There was a scene in the hotel room, and I kill a guy, and I find out that the chest has newspaper clippings in it, and not money. And I turned to him, and I said, I killed a man for newspaper clippings. And he kind of puts me down for it, so I hit him with a right cross. And he knocks me on my ass.
Yeah.
The film that followed this was The Cowboys. This was 71, The Cowboys was 72. And
That guy right there.
another classic. And
Big man. Bobby Carradine.
yeah. But then he ended up doing a couple of Dirty Harry type films, Brannigan and McHugh, before The Shootist.
Basically, his life story was so hard for me to watch.
Yeah.
Too true to life.
Now, how long was it before you were able
10
to watch
years.
it? Really?
10 years for a guess, yeah.
Now, Chris, did you do films with your dad too, like Patrick did?
I did one thing with my father. It was a TV movie of the week called Promises to Keep. It was my father, myself, and my son, my 18-year-old son. And it was about 3 generations. It probably wasn't very good. It was a movie of the week for CBS.
Did he beat you up like Duke did?
No,
Patrick?
no. We actually, they said you can't have 3 Mitchums in a movie and not have a fight scene.
Yeah.
So they wrote in a fight scene, and we beat up 3 people who I have no idea who they were.
Good, some action. Now, and your dad, he started as an extra, basically, in the Hopalong Cassidy
Yeah,
movies.
his first 14 films, he's an uncredited extra, like 4th guy in the background on a horse. in Hopalong Cassidy movies, and then he got some dialogue in a film called Hoppy Serves a Writ. And when they heard that baritone voice, boy, that was it. He was working.
Yeah. Boy, he never looked back.
Never looked back.
It would have been fun to see the two of them do a film earlier in their career, but in El Dorado, they make fun of being old.
Yeah.
And that's really funny.
You know, in that film, there's a scene at the end where my dad turns to Duke and says, you have your crutch under the wrong arm. And Duke says, how would you know? Well, what happened is my dad, in all the interiors, he had the crutch under one arm, and all the exteriors, he had the crutch under the other arm.
Oh, my God.
And like the last day, they pointed it out to Hawks, and he said, we got to shoot half the movie over again. He said, no, we could fix this. And he put in that line about, you know, well, you've been swapping your crutch back and forth all day long.
Yeah, a lot of people like that more than the other two Rio.
Yeah. Yeah. What's funny is it has a light heart to it.
Mm-hmm. And your career in Europe, too, you did a couple of big films over there, The Summertime Killer with Carl Malden and stuff.
Olivia Hussey.
Did you get into the spaghetti westerns at all?
No, I never got into spaghetti westerns, which were actually, they were Italian westerns, but they were shot in Almeria, Spain. But no, the stuff I did, I don't think I ever did a western there. I was usually a CIA agent killing people, saving the world from a H-bomb.
Like karate stuff, right?
Yeah. I'm a black belt in Kenpo karate. So
Yeah.
I became a martial arts star in Asia.
And Patrick, you did a film in Almeria.
Rustler's Rhapsody, but I did a film before that, too. Did I only do one film over there? Devil's Backbone? The Deserters. Oh, yeah, I did a couple
The
films.
Deserters is one nobody ever talks about.
No, back in February.
And you know why?
Maybe you
They all deserted. Rustler's Rhapsody, yeah. I mean, it was in Almeria, but I wasn't there very long. I had just come back from Japan, from a film in Japan. On a weekend, on Monday, the script comes. I read the script. My agent calls and says, how'd you like the script? I said, it's great. He said, good, you're going to Spain tomorrow. I went on Tuesday, got there Wednesday, worked Thursday, Friday, flew home Saturday. That all the scenes right together. They had everything all planned.
That's a funny movie, though.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even get jet lag. There was some funny stuff in it. Yep.
Well, I think we're ready to watch this classic movie, Big Jake. Yeah. So, all right. Let's give a big hand for the two stars right here.
Thank you.